All right. So you ready to dive into something kind of crazy?
Always up for a deep dive, especially when it comes to, well, things like Black Friday.
Yeah, Black Friday, right.
Yeah.
Today's focus. And it's wild, just thinking about how intense it can get.
Intense is putting it mildly, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, absolutely a fascinating topic, especially when you start to peel back the layers and see what's really going on, beneath the surface.
It's not just about the deals.
No.
It's this whole cultural phenomenon.
Exactly. It's about, well, everything from consumer psychology to our relationship with stuff.
It says it all right in the title of this article we're looking at today.
Oh, yeah.
Black Friday. When shopping became a blood sport.
Wow. It's a powerful image.
It is. And I mean, have you seen some of the videos out there?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, the ones where it's like a mosh pit in the electronics aisle.
Yeah, I've seen people literally climb over each other to get to a discounted TV.
It's kind of terrifying, honestly, when you think about it. Is a TV really worth risking life and limb? But that's part of what makes this topic so fascinating, I guess.
Well, the article, it points out how different Black Friday is now compared to way back when.
Or a different world, right?
Yeah. Remember when it was families going out after Thanksgiving dinner?
It had a nice tradition, yeah.
Yeah, this article calls it a Norman Rockwell fantasy. That wholesome image of, I don't know, moms and dads helping their kids pick out toys.
It's such a stark contrast to what we see now. It's that Norman Rockwell painting got replaced by a scene from a zombie movie or something with everyone just scrambling for whatever they can grab.
I like that, the Norman Rockwell scene turned zombie apocalypse.
Right, because it does feel like this frenzy takes over, people lose all sense of, common decency or even personal space. And the article really highlights this. It talks about how Black Friday is, better known for blackouts.
Blackouts? You mean the power going out?
Well, yeah, sometimes literally with all the, the strain on the grid and everything, but also blackouts in the sense of people passing out.
Well, why?
From the crowds or the heat or just the sheer chaos of it all.
Literally fainting in the middle of it all.
Oh, yeah, it happens. The article even mentions people getting headlocks in aisle 5.
A headlock?
Over a toaster, apparently.
You can't make this stuff up.
You really can't. And it's it's funny, but it's also, kind of disturbing, right? Because it speaks to this larger issue of how we've come to view consumption. It's become almost this competitive sport. And the article really hits on that with this quote that's if you need body armor to buy socks, humanity's priorities are severely out of whack.
Ouch, that is a good one.
Right. But it makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, when did things get so extreme?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors, right? The article talks about how Black Friday has become this symbol of, well, just excess.
The more stuff you get, the better.
Exactly. And it's almost the hunt for the bargain. It overshadows everything else. Basic courtesy, personal safety even.
Yeah, it's common sense goes out the window when there's a sale on.
And the article, it actually points out this pretty disturbing statistic. Did you know that at least 17 people have died and 125 have been seriously injured during Black Friday shopping incidents since 2006?
Seriously, 17 deaths.
Yeah.
Just from shopping on Black Friday.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking when you think about it, but it highlights the fact that this frenzy, it can have some really, really serious consequences. We're not just talking about, a few bruises here and there. People have actually lost their lives in these stampedes.
It's hard to believe that a shopping event could be so dangerous. What could even cause that many deaths?
Well, the article talks about people getting trampled, literally crushed in doorways. Even some incidents of shootings in parking lot arguments.
Shootings? Over Black Friday shopping?
It's extreme, but it's happened.
It's just mind-blowing.
It is, and it really makes you wonder, is any discount really worth that kind of risk? And I think that's where the psychology of it all gets really interesting. How do we get to this point where people are willing to, put themselves in danger for a bargain?
Yeah, I mean, what is it about Black Friday that makes people act so crazy?
Well, the article digs into that. It talks about how retailers use all these, sophisticated tactics to essentially manipulate our behavior. They're playing on our deepest fears and desires.
Like what? Subliminal messages or something?
Well, not exactly subliminal, but definitely subtle. They create this sense of urgency, this, you have to buy now or miss out feeling.
Oh, yeah, all those doorbuster deals and limited quantities.
Exactly. It's all designed to trigger our fear of missing out, that FOMO, know?
Yeah.
And they know we're vulnerable, especially on Black Friday.
How are we vulnerable?
Well, think about it. You're probably sleep deprived. You've just had a big Thanksgiving meal, maybe a little stressed from the holidays. And then you're bombarded with all these messages about, unbelievable deals and limited time offers. It's a recipe for impulsive behavior.
So it's not just shoppers being crazy. It's like the stores are setting us up to act this way.
It's a combination of factors, right? But the article definitely points out that retailers are very aware of the psychology at play, and they use it to their advantage.
It's kind of sneaky when you think about it.
It is, and it's effective, which is why, Black Friday continues to be this massive event, even though, as the article points out, it's not actually the best time to get deals.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the article cites studies showing that prices are often lower at other times of the year, like after Christmas, for example.
So Black Friday is just like a marketing ploy.
In a lot of ways, yes. It's about creating this perception of scarcity and urgency to drive sales. But it's also become this, this cultural phenomenon that people just kind of buy into, literally and figuratively.
So we're basically all falling for this big trick.
Well, I wouldn't say it's that simple, but there's definitely a lot of psychology at play. And it's important to be aware of it, so we can make more informed choices as consumers.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, but it's good to remember that, there's a whole industry behind it, trying to influence our behavior.
Exactly. And it's not just about our individual spending habits either. The article also raises some important points about the environmental impact of Black Friday. All that consumption, it comes at a cost.
Oh, right. The environmental impact. Yeah. That's something people don't always think about when they're rushing to get a deal.
Exactly. Like, we tend to forget about the bigger picture when we're focused on, snagging that discounted gadget. But all those sales, they fuel overproduction, which leads to more waste, more products ending up in landfills. It's a vicious cycle.
So even if you're getting a good deal, it's like the planet is paying the price.
In a way, yes. The article actually cites a study that found nearly 40% of Black Friday purchases are either broken or unused within a year.
Wow, 40%. So like almost half the stuff people buy on Black Friday just ends up as junk.
Pretty much. And that's not even counting the packaging and shipping materials. It all adds up.
It's almost ironic, right? Like, we think we're getting this amazing deal, but the real cost might be way higher than we realize.
It's a good point, and it's something to consider, as we navigate this whole season of, consumption.
I think that's a great place to pause for a moment, and we'll come back to this conversation about the environmental impact and, maybe some alternatives to the whole Black Friday madness in our next segment.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
All right, we'll be right back after a quick break. It really makes you think about, the choices we make and, how they affect the planet.
Absolutely. And it's like the more we learn about these things, the harder it is to ignore,
It's true. Like, ignorance might be bliss in some cases, but when it comes to the environment, we can't afford to be clueless.
Right, exactly. We all have a responsibility to be informed and to make conscious choices, even when it comes to something as, seemingly harmless as shopping.
Speaking of choices, this article has some pretty interesting thoughts on where Black Friday might be headed in the future. If this whole frenzy keeps escalating.
Oh, yeah. They get into some almost dystopian scenarios.
Dystopian? Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, they talk about, the possibility of stores having to implement, extreme security measures.
Like what? Metal detectors at the entrance?
Maybe even more than that. They mention things like, security checkpoints and, get this, shoppers having to sign waivers before entering.
Waivers? Like, I'm assuming they're not talking about waiving your right to a good deal.
No, actual legal waivers, releasing the store from liability if you get injured in a Black Friday stampede or something.
Seriously, that's kind of, messed up, right? It's like, instead of trying to make things safer, they're just saying, hey, enter at your own risk.
It's a pretty bleak outlook, but it kind of plays on our, anxieties about where consumerism is headed. Is it really going to get to the point where we need to sign a waiver just to buy a discounted TV?
I mean, it sounds crazy, but then again, some of the stuff we've seen already is pretty wild. So who knows? Maybe in a few years, Black Friday will look like some kind of, extreme sport where you got to gear up in pads and a helmet just to brave the crowds.
That's a pretty vivid image.
I know, right? But it makes you think, doesn't it? What are we willing to put up with in the name of a bargain?
Definitely food for thought. And on a more, hopeful note, the article also talks about the idea of completely ditching Black Friday, which some retailers have actually done.
Boycotting the whole thing.
Yeah, like REI, the outdoor retailer, they close their stores on Black Friday and encourage people to, spend time outdoors or with loved ones instead.
Now, that's an idea I can get behind, like trading the shopping frenzy for some fresh air and quality time. That sounds way more in line with the spirit of the holidays, than fighting over a discounted waffle maker.
It's a refreshing perspective, and it challenges us to rethink our priorities, like what's truly important during this time of year. Is it about accumulating more stuff, or is it about connecting with people and appreciating the simple things?
It's like instead of being Black Friday shoppers, we could be like Black Friday hikers or Black Friday, I don't know, gratitude practitioners or something.
I like that, Black Friday gratitude practitioners.
Right. It's all about reframing the narrative.
Yeah.
And focusing on what really matters.
Exactly. And it's not to say that, shopping or gift giving is inherently bad, but it's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Like, how can we enjoy the festive aspects of the season without getting caught up in the consumerism frenzy?
It's a tough question. I mean, Black Friday is so ingrained in our culture now, it's hard to imagine it just disappearing.
It's true. It's a deeply rooted tradition for a lot of people, and it's, a major source of revenue for businesses. So there's a lot of factors at play.
Yeah, it's like this push and pull between tradition, economic forces, and then, our growing awareness of the downsides of this whole Black Friday thing.
Exactly. It's complex, and there's no easy answers, but I think the article does a good job of presenting different perspectives and making us think critically about the whole thing.
It definitely raises some good questions like, are those so-called deals really worth it, in the grand scheme of things? When you consider the environmental impact, the potential for chaos, and even violence, it makes you wonder if maybe there's a better way.
And speaking of deals, the article actually points out something that I found really surprising. It turns out Black Friday isn't actually the busiest shopping day of the year.
Wait, what? Seriously, I thought that was like Black Friday, the biggest shopping day of the year, end of story.
Nope. That title actually goes to the Saturday before Christmas, often called Super Saturday.
Wow, I had no idea. So Black Friday is just all hype.
Well, not entirely. It's still a massive shopping event, but it's interesting that, the day we perceive as the busiest isn't actually the one with the most sales.
It makes you wonder how much of this Black Friday frenzy is just manufactured, we're so bombarded with messages about how it's the biggest shopping event of the year that we just assume it's true.
It's a good example of how our perceptions can be shaped by, marketing and media hype. We think we're acting rationally, but often we're just responding to, these carefully crafted narratives.
It's like Black Friday is this giant social experiment, and we're all just rats in a maze following the cheese, even though there might be a better way out.
It's a bit of a dramatic analogy, but I see your point.
I know. I get carried away sometimes, but it's fascinating to think about, how easily our behavior can be influenced by these external forces.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to be aware of them, to be critical thinkers, and not just blindly follow the herd.
So what can we do? How do we navigate Black Friday without getting caught up in all the madness?
Well, the article offers a few quick win tips that I thought were pretty helpful. For starters, they suggest shopping online whenever possible.
Online. But what about, the thrill of the hunt, the adrenaline rush of grabbing that last discounted item before someone else does?
I get it. There's definitely a certain energy to in-person shopping, especially on Black Friday. But shopping online, it takes away a lot of the stress and, potential for danger.
That's true. No crowds, no stampedes, no parking lot showdowns.
Exactly. And a lot of retailers offer the same deals online, often even earlier than in stores, so you're not really missing out.
So online shopping, check. What else?
Another tip is to make a list and stick to it. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement and make impulse purchases, but that amazing deal might not seem so amazing a few months later when it's just, adding clutter to your home.
I'm definitely guilty of that. Oh, look, a discounted foot massager. I totally need that, even though I'll probably use it twice, and then it'll just end up gathering dust in the closet.
We've all been there, but making a list and, really thinking about what you need and will actually use, it can help you stay focused and avoid those impulse buys.
That makes sense. So make a list, stick to it. Got it. Any other pearls of wisdom?
Well, the last tip is to consider supporting local businesses instead of big box stores. Not only will you find unique gifts and avoid the crowds, but you'll also be contributing to your local economy.
Oh, yeah. Supporting local, that's always a good idea. Plus, you're more likely to find something, special and handmade rather than just mass-produced stuff.
Exactly. And it's a way to make your holiday shopping more meaningful. You're supporting real people and their passions instead of just, feeding the corporate machine.
I like that. It's like Black Friday with a conscience.
Exactly. And it's a win-win-win. You get unique gifts, avoid the crowds, and support your community.
I'm sold. Sign me up for the Black Friday with a conscience movement.
It's a movement we can all get behind, I think.
Absolutely. So there you have it, folks. Some practical tips for navigating Black Friday without losing your sanity or your values.
And some food for thought about, the bigger picture of consumerism and the choices we make during the holiday season.
It's been a fascinating deep dive so far, and I think it's safe to say that Black Friday is way more than just a day of sales. It's a reflection of our culture, our psychology, and our relationship with, well, stuff.
And it's a conversation that's worth having, as we head into this season of, well, let's face it, often excessive consumption.
Agreed. And I think it's time for us to take another little pause, gather our thoughts, and come back for our final segment where we'll wrap up this Black Friday deep dive with some, hopefully inspiring takeaways and some final thoughts on how to make this holiday season more meaningful and less about, just buying stuff.
Sounds good to me. Looking forward to it.
All right, we'll be right back after this quick break. All right, so we're back and ready to kind of wrap up our Black Friday deep dive. We talked about the good, the bad, the ugly. What have we learned?
I think the big takeaway for me is that, there's more to this whole thing than meets the eye, right? It's not just about sales and deals. It's about our values, our psychology, our impact on the planet. It's deep stuff.
Yeah, we went deep for sure. And, as we head into the holidays, it's easy to get swept up in the whole consumerism thing, but maybe, just maybe, we can approach it all a little differently this year.
Absolutely. What if instead of focusing on, how much stuff we can buy, we focus on experiences, making memories, connecting with people.
Yeah, I love that. The article touched on that too, right? Shifting our focus from material possessions to experiences and connections, way more meaningful, I think.
Totally. And it doesn't have to be this big elaborate thing either. It could be as simple as, cooking a meal together, playing a board game, going for a walk, just being present with each other.
Yeah, presence over presence, right. I like that. And even when it comes to gift giving, maybe we can be a little more mindful, Think about gifts that are ethically sourced, sustainable, or even better, handmade.
Absolutely. Supporting local artisans, choosing gifts that align with our values, it all makes a difference. It's about, putting thought and intention behind our purchases.
It's we're reframing the whole holiday experience, right? It's not about checking things off a list. It's about creating something special, something that resonates with our hearts, not just our wallets.
And it can be fun. Let's get creative with it. Make gifts, bake treats, write heartfelt cards. The possibilities are endless.
I love that. It's we're taking back the holidays, reclaiming them from the clutches of consumerism, and infusing them with genuine meaning and joy.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's what it's all about, right? Finding that balance between, enjoying the festive aspects of the season and staying true to ourselves, our values, and, taking care of the planet while we're at it.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. It's been an awesome conversation, wouldn't you say? Super insightful.
Totally. I've learned a lot, and hopefully our listeners have too.
Fingers crossed. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this Black Friday journey. We hope it's given you some food for thought as you navigate the holiday season.
And remember, it's not about the stuff. It's about the connections, the experiences, the love.
Couldn't said it better myself. So, from both of us, happy holidays. And until next time, keep diving deep.